Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final installment of our Radically Loved Sessions, our book club. It's our fourth meeting. Thank you so much for. I know we changed the date. Tessa, I don't know if you saw those responses. Thank you so much for changing it over. But people are really enjoying watching the replay, which is great.
Mhm.
I've not published them on YouTube, which is where I think they're going to live, but I have sent the Dropbox link to people that
Oh,
were
great.
desperate to watch it. So that's been really nice. So
Mhm.
hopefully, if you're watching this, it's already alive and well living in the YouTube umbrella, and you can go back and check out the first. Oh, whatever happened to the first session? Do we know?
I think that something happened when it was converting. Um, I don't think it actually recorded. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think there was a tech issue and we didn't get that recording. Remember? I think
Oh,
something
yeah,
happened while
that's
it was
right.
converting.
I think it was like the sound. I think I stopped at mid conversion.
And then it just didn't continue,
Yeah. And I don't
unfortunately.
actually know what happened. But okay, well that's fine. Let's not dwell, even though it's been weeks and months and I'm still dwelling. So it's apropos to the final installment of the book. Part of what I wanted to do today was really focus on that last and final chapter. And mostly what I wanted to do today is I definitely want to read a couple of snippets,
Hmm.
but also just wanted to check in. And it's obviously hard to have a dialogue like this, but I know, Tessa, you were one of the first people, if people don't know this, maybe Siona doesn't know this, or anybody else that's watching this, that you read this when it wasn't even complete. It was lots of notes and ramblings that you had to sort through. So you kind of got to see the culmination of the final product. So
Hmm.
I think for me, well, it's hard to say that you have a favorite, right? Because I feel like it's all my favorite, but I think the final chapter really embodies what I wanted to bring forward in the book. And another sort of intention behind even having these meetings was to elaborate a little bit more on what was happening behind the scenes and what brought me to the final amalgamation of this final product. So I definitely want to get into that a little bit, but I just want to sort of just get your initial thoughts so that it can help prime my brain a little bit.
About what my favorite chapter was. And
Oh, you want to say favorite? Yes, tell us.
well, so I love that. I mean, the favorite is hard because there's so many wonderful nuggets throughout the book, of course. But I think the section that I keep returning to is part two, the body, because it's where we start, right? It's often the most accessible and the most tangible thing for place, at least in my experience, for us to start from, because the body tells us so much about our experience, about what where we need to listen, where we need to slow down, where we need to go faster. And I love this at the very beginning of part two, the body. You write, when the volume of negativity and fear is turned up, our body can help us move through it. And that's the place when I talk about this a lot on the podcast, where I get stuck in my swirling head of mental chatter. Coming back to the body is my way to ground. It's my way to calm. It's my way to soothe. And the idea that I really love the idea of learning how to respect the body, and the whole chapter on you are radically respected. And that's partly because where I am in my life experience right now, that it resonates with me so much. So I don't know if I could say favorite, but the one that I keep coming back to as of late. And this is a book that Like so many of my favorites, I know that I will return to year over year when I need a reset. And each time I come back to it, something new will resonate. And each time I come back to it, I will learn something new about myself. So it's timeless in that way. It's like a classic, you know?
That is, can you write that on Amazon, please? That was
Yeah.
wonderful. Like
Oh,
that was
yeah.
really, really nice. Do you remember the gal that gave us that awesome, I'm like us, this is our book, Tessa. So do you remember that
So
uh
honored.
lovely student that gave that incredible review in Salt Lake City?
Yes, I was just thinking about that. And I'm blanking on her name, but I can
I
see
am
her
too right
face.
now. I can totally see her. I hear her
Yeah.
voice, and I definitely, man, I wish we're gonna give you the appropriate shout out. So my apologies. Hopefully, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Um, it. Thank you for saying that. I think that a lot of these lessons or questions are timeless, and I feel like these lessons, I keep referring to them as practices because we undoubtedly will always keep forgetting and have to come back to these same teachings over and over again. And for some of us, it's exhausting, right? Because we can have and make these same mistakes over and over and over because there's some sort of blind spot that we're not seeing. And part of the intention too behind the writing prompts was to see if there's a way that I can invite the reader to discover what those blind spots are so we can examine what are the repetitive cycles, what is the pathology that is attributing to these mistakes continuously happening. So I also have to learn those same lessons for myself. Interesting. Somebody had sent a DM. She had posted the book. I think she just got it last week and sent a very very beautiful note on Instagram and was asking me um, about this particular topic about learning self respect. And she said it was such an interesting prose to me because I'd never thought about respecting myself. I was always taught to respect others in my household and to not um, talk back and to make sure, whatever opinions I had, like not to voice them because it was rude. This type of sentiment, I think, rings true, especially for women, because we're sort of conditioned to stifle that part of us that doesn't really get expressed, whether it's an opinion, whether it's a belief, whether it's an emotion, whatever it may be. I think it's beautiful that you love this so much. And for me, I know you and I know why you love this so much because you are so into movement and you're so much into the connection of body, mind, and spirit. And I am too. And I think for a lot of people to be able to have that experience is a great key to unlocking those different parts of us that perhaps don't really get to see the light of day too often.
Mm.
So I think that I want to read a little bit in the final chapter, chapter 12, page 178. I'll grab my book real quick so that I can just read this. This is my favorite story in here, and I want to sort of give you a little bit of layering that's here that people haven't noticed or seen, especially people involved with this story. And I'll elaborate more on that here in a minute. So, You Are Radically Loved, page 178. If you have the book, if you're looking at it on a Kindle, I don't actually know, but it's the subhead is The Mountain Won't Kill You, but It Will Let You Die. Got to clear my throat. My My in-laws live on a 20-acre farm in a small town in the Willamette Valley outside of Portland. My father-in-law, Papa Bear, and my mother-in-law, Mama P, welcomed me from the moment we met 18 years ago. Well, it's been 19 years now. When I was 20 years old, they've been married for more than now it's 50 years, right? Cuz this is dating myself now. They live in the same house where they raised all three of their kids. During one of my first visits to Oregon, Mama P took me for a little drive into town. As we approached the highway, we could see Mount Hood's clear, snow capped summit. She turned to me and said, "It's absolutely stunning today. Can you see the mountain?" It was a beautiful, crisp winter day. I was taken by all the lush trees, the vast mountain ranges, and the rivers. I fantasized about going hiking and exploring the mountain peaks in the distance, very Lord of the Rings. I had never gone hiking before, but I had just read a story about two missing hikers and asked if she knew what had happened to them. I can't imagine how scary it would be up there all night with no help in the cold. She took a deep, sympathetic breath and responded, "Yeah, I heard. You know, Rosie, people forget how unpredictable nature is. A lot of hikers just don't know or are totally unprepared. They don't bring enough supplies or have the right gear or they go off trail." Matching her sympathetic tone, I responded, "Oh no, that's awful. I don't even want to go up there then. I guess we can strike hiking off of my potential hobby list." Mama P took a sip of her beverage and smiled at me. "Aw, it's not the mountain's fault. It's truly beautiful up there. The views are stunning." I shrugged and stared out the window and responded, "I've lived in a dangerous place already. I think I'm good." She smiled and replied, "The mountain won't kill you, but it will let you die." You know those moments in your life where you can remember exactly what you were doing when someone said something that changed your worldview? This was one of those moments. She dropped that little wisdom bomb like it was nothing. When I was a child, I once got swept away by a massive wave. I was playing near the edge of the water when my mom motioned for me to get in with her. "Don't be afraid," she said. As she pulled me quickly toward the deep to move past the breakers, I was deathly afraid of the ocean. It was big and I was small, and I didn't know how to swim. She held both of my extended arms as we traversed the shallow edge. While I unsteadily resisted to stay close to the shore, suddenly a large wave caught us off guard and pulled us into its revolution. I flailed and gasped for air, the ocean filling my lungs. My mother's arms reached for mine as we both tumbled through the tide. When we made it back to shore, I refused to get back in. She said if I didn't get back in, I would always fear the sea. I didn't care. All I could see was the ferocity of the waves crashing while I sat paralyzed with the panic that I could drown. Ocean water came out of everywhere for the next several days. I don't remember what prompted my love for the ocean after that. I don't remember how long it took or what my process was. Maybe it was after my encounter with the best grandma on the planet. The closer you stay to shore, the more likely you are to get pummeled by the surf. The deeper you get, the easier it becomes to swim. It's the in between that is dangerous and uncertain. It's not the mountain that will kill you. It's the indecision of not knowing where to go or how to climb. So that when you do that.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love this. That the mountain will not kill you, but it will let you die. I love that.
Isn't that so deep?
Yes.
I I'm not kidding when that really has helped guide every decision in my life because it takes me back to that moment and some of the layers that you don't see here in chapter 2 or 3, I can't remember now. Oh my god, this is terrible. But where I'm writing about the best grandma on the planet, I think it's chapter 2. I'm talking about being at the beach after ditching school. I'm trying to figure out my life, and the water's sort of coming very in a hurried way, and it's coming up to my feet, and I just remember recoiling, right, having this energy of fear, And it was so metaphorical in this moment when this woman showed up in that exact precise moment. And it, in a sense, while my mother-in-law was telling me this story about these hikers up there, it was like everything looked so inviting and beautiful. And you start to think, wow, this is potentially dangerous. This is a dangerous place. You start to disseminate and create a fear that isn't necessarily there, and you allow that to inform every decision in your life,
Mhm.
right? When in reality it's circumstantial. It's not elemental, right? It's not elemental to who you are. It's not like the air you breathe. It's not the water you drink. It's something that is a circumstance in your life. And I really wanted to weave that. And there's a lot of those types of paradoxes throughout each chapter, just to allow the reader to have that experience of change in perspective. Who said the miracle? Was it Julie Reisler that said a miracle is just a change in perspective?
Yeah, Julie Reisler. Yeah,
Yeah.
shift
And
in
so,
perspective.
and
Hmm.
I really do believe that. I think that there are so many moments in our lives, so many opportunities to see the world differently and to assess things in a way that's going to serve you as opposed to harm you. You can create a fear of the ocean. And then it takes me to that. The reason why the story with my mom came into this specific chapter right after that story was because I went straight into this fearful place. And you can't, after this was edited and done, one of the things that I regret is not really driving home the amount of uh, finality and sort of aversion I had in that moment, knowing that something bad happened to people that decided to do something incredible, right? It was part of my ability or my conditioning of the unknown is a scary place. Don't go into the unknown. Uncertainty is bad. Stay safe in a secure place. Don't take chances. And so my direct relation was that experience of going into the water was, oh no, I'm scared of the ocean because I literally almost drowned.
Hmm.
And I hated it. It was awful. It was a bad experience. But then at the same time thinking, well, it all just took a shift in perspective by this best grandma on the planet in chapter 2 coming and saying there's no problem that's bigger than the ocean, right? Like there is never going to be a problem that's bigger than the ocean. So in a sense, the ocean then becomes this omnipotent presence, this overwhelming neutralizer, right? Like the mountain, like the ocean, that can put things back into perspective. So those are, I mean, it's easy for me to explain it here, what sort of the intention was behind these stories and bringing them together. But when you're writing them out, it's really hard, right? To be able to, I'm like, let me really break this down because you don't want to put all of the puzzle pieces together. You want to allow the reader or people to come to those conclusions on their own, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so good though. I love the lesson in this is that for me, what I'm taking out of this is because I've been in that situation literally as a hiker, getting lost in the wilderness. And when we're talking about the elements, Mother
Well,
Nature,
give people a little bit of context of what you like to do.
so I like to backpack.
She
And when,
loves backpacking.
I love backpacking. This is true. I'll actually have a week long trip coming up soon, and I will be hiking a section of the Washington Pacific Crest Trail. I'll probably be hiking for about 70 miles. And so I'll do about 10 to 12 miles a day. And every time I go out, and I do this, I've always done this since the beginning, but I did have one experience where I did lose the trail and I did get lost. And I thought for probably the length of 6 hours that I might die out there. And I'm kind of giggling about that now, but it was terrifying in that moment. um, and it was because I feel like I was a little bit overconfident in my knowledge of being able to follow the trail. And I lost the trail in snow. And on the PCT, there's supposed to be these markers on each tree that you're supposed to be able to see within eyesight from one to the next. So that if you can't see the path under your feet because it's covered with snow, you can at least tell that you're on the trail because of the tree markers. Well, this is a 3,000 plus trail that has to be maintained, and some sections are better maintained than others. So when you get up to elevation above 7,000 feet and there's snow in June, it's just not as well maintained as you would think. And so I came away from that experience that the message and the lesson here for me is that while I love this thing and it's majestic and it's beautiful and it's amazing and all of the things that your mother-in-law expressed about it, it also it needs to be approached with a healthy sense of respect. And the same thing with the ocean. We all hear this idea or this phrase, don't turn your back on the ocean, right? Because you're not sure what kind of wave could sneak up behind you. So I think it's just a matter of being, and I don't say that so cavalier, it's not just a matter of being aware of your surroundings, because accidents do happen. They do to people that are very well prepared, and they
Yes.
study the maps and they study the ocean and they know, about what to expect. There's always this, because nature is omnipotent and unpredictable at times, there are always things that we could never have fathomed happening, right? And how do we react in a situation like that? And if you survive it and you come out of it with, okay, well, I would have done that a little bit differently, and next time I go back and do it, I have learned something, I have a new level of self-confidence with a healthy dose of respect for what it is that you are doing. I think that's the key for me, not to make yourself small and be afraid of everything, and not to go out and live your life and be bold and take a calculated risk, but to acknowledge what you don't know and approach things like this with a healthy level of respect.
Yeah, it's going back to what you talked about earlier, the ability to have the self-respect for yourself, right? So how do we teach that? How do we discern? How do we teach discernment? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's a good question. I feel like a lot of that comes from experience, from falling on your face and failing sometimes, and especially when you're young, you can tell a teen.
yes.
My mom couldn't tell me anything. My parents couldn't tell me anything that I didn't already know. I had to go out and learn it for myself. So
Yeah.
hopefully you learn that when you touch something hot, you get burned the first time, and you don't keep doing it again and again.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's interesting, curious, the time that we're in now with some, parents wanting to do the best for their children. And I feel like there's this cultural norm of wanting to protect your children from every bad thing. And I hear less and less parents really allowing their kids to make the mistakes and fall on their face, and I don't know if that's just me. And obviously you and I were not parents, we don't have kids. Some of you that are watching this, are probably more equipped to answer those questions. All I can speak from is friends that I have that have children, parenting styles, and I really go back to this idea of discernment, teaching self-respect, um, being able to discern. And we did a podcast about this, I think, not that long ago, where we were talking about critical thinking, I think, and critical thinking, I think. And I can't remember exactly who the guest was or what the topic was. Maybe it was on a Wisdom Wednesday episode. But I think it's quite
Mhm.
a fascinating topic that really, yeah, I mean, it's designed to make you think. I've read so many books in this same genre. And if I think back to the books that really left an impression on me, they were books that really helped me change my perspective in some way,
Mhm.
or that um, validated something that I was already doing, or some way of living that I was already aware of. Rarely has it been something that, I'm just like, okay, like this is duh, of course, like the mountain won't kill you. It's going to let you die. Maybe some people read that and they think, yeah, of course that makes sense. But I think it's important for us to, yeah, just remain open and know that we don't know everything. That was the other thing that I really wanted to relay with this work, was the fact that I am very much a student, and I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know.
Mhm.
And I think it's important. That's a very empowering outlook, to be able to say, I I know I'm an expert at being myself. I know what I can do, I know what I can't do, and I know what I'm willing to do, and I know what I'm not willing to do. I think sometimes we just need to start exactly where we are and know that whatever moment that is exactly what it needs to be. And we don't have to change some circumstance or some environment to begin self inquiry, or to begin any work that's going to allow us to broaden our landscape.
Yeah, it's like the conditions don't have to be perfect. It does, you don't have to be fully baked in order to present. Like if you want to create a podcast, you
Oh,
just
yeah, we just talked about this.
good. Yeah, good is better than or done is better than good, right? I wanted to mention the podcast episode you were referring to is a Wisdom Wednesday. It was just a few weeks ago. The title is Evolving for the Better, Saying Yes to Change and Self-Development. And that aired on July 27th. It was episode 468, if you want to dig into
Oh,
that one. It's really good.
thanks. Put it in the show notes.
Yeah. We will.
Well, I mean that concludes my talk for this particular part of the book. I wish I would have preemptively asked everyone for questions before we sent the invite out. Because it would have been nice to be able to accumulate some questions. But the great thing is that wherever this lives, hopefully there's a chat box somewhere below that you can ask questions, or you can always email us at info@radicallyloved.com, and we read every single email. So fret not. If you're going to be mean, don't send an email. But
Please
if
don't
you're
be
going to
mean.
be curious, by all means. Is there anything else you want to share or ask, or any other questions?
The only other thing I wanted to say, if you're asking me, maybe you weren't asking me.
I was asking you.
Okay, is that I have created on the YouTube channel, there is a playlist for these book club sessions, which will be populated with our sessions if you want to watch us, because it's fun to watch, I think. And it's just called the Radically Loved Book Club. So, and it's
Yes.
at Rosie Acosta.
How
You can find us
fun.
on YouTube.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thanks for doing that.
Of course,
That's
yes.
amazing. That is, I wish I had a little clap track right now, but we are, as we proposed last session, talking about dates for a regular book club. I still haven't sent a survey out. I feel like Tessa and I made the executive decision of doing Overstory.
Mhm. We did.
We
Well,
did.
actually, I believe Raquel agreed with us. She was here last time. And
Oh,
was like, I
yes,
want to read
she
that
did.
too. So it was, I feel like
It was
unanimous.
unanimous.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So we will send more info about that on my newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, most of you that are watching this are probably watching this because you got the newsletter. So, but if you're not, go to radicallylove.com and sign up for the newsletter there so you will stay connected and in the loop of all the fun things we've got going on. Those of you that are in LA, I have a book signing that I'm doing October 1st at my old school home studio, Center for Yoga on Larchmont. I believe it starts at 2 p.m. It's free. You can register directly on their website. I'll put a link below this video in the description below. And also, we will be going to Spain. There's a retreat coming up. It's going to be heavily based on the teachings of this book. So if you're interested, join us. We're taking a small group because I want a small, intimate group. And it's going to be my first retreat since 2019. So I international retreat since 2019, and I'm nerve sighted because like I want to make sure everybody's safe and it's a great experience for everybody. I've never been to Spain before, so I'm really excited. I have an aunt that lives there. It's part of my background, so I want to learn all of the history and all of the fun things, and I want to eat all of the food and do all of the yoga nidra. So it's going to be awesome. I believe that is it. The new season for the Radical Love podcast starts first week of September. I think that's it. Anything else, Tess?
Yeah, September 2nd, kicking off season 9. Woo woo. Oh, can you believe it? It's great.
I can't. I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. And I still cannot believe it.
We can't believe it.
We can't believe it.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you. Thanks, Tess, for just being here and being amazing as usual. Thank you all so much for
Sure.
watching. And I look forward to staying connected with all of you.